Namaste, this is Bodhana, bringing you the fourth in the series on working with the women in the maximum security prison, teaching Nithyananda yoga. In today's video, I'm going to talk about something that most of you will probably never have heard of, and that was a real shock to me. I found out, I think I started doing the work in October, and I found out when it came to be really cold weather around January that some women, actually a lot of women, actually use the prison system as a homeless shelter. This was such a surprise to me. I know that there's a lot of homeless and hungry people, but let me tell you how it happened. It'll help you understand. So I'd been in the system a lot. I told you in the last video how it was that I had to go through the whole security every time I went, put my keys out, everything. And then I had to have an escort. I had to go through the double doors, get locked in, and then go through another set of doors, get locked out, and things like that. So what was happening is my escort was not showing up. And so if my escort wasn't there, it meant I couldn't teach yoga. I had to have an escort per the laws of the prison system. The reason the escort wasn't showing up is, it's probably kind of boring to meet somebody and walk them across the campus, sit through a yoga class, walk them back. Not only that, but she was getting pressure because remember I talked about each unit has its own funding. And so she was not doing other work that her supervisor wanted her to do because she's just hanging out with me teaching yoga. So this was becoming a problem. As I told you before, every time I missed a session, then my participants were never sure if I was ever coming back again. Did the program get cut? So I started inquiring if I could have increased security clearance so that I could come into the prison system by myself. And so they looked into it, and I was able to do that. What it required was more fingerprinting, more background checking, all of this stuff. So I had an appointment one day in the prison to do the fingerprints, and I had to go again through a whole series of, locked doors, into a glass room, through an office, into another space. So this was a space I'd never been in before. And I was in there, and he's putting my thumbs down, doing the fingerprints. I think I had all the fingers. And then two women came in, and they sat near me. To my eyes, they didn't look all that different. But they said to me right away, "So what are you in for?" And I realized right away that they were actually prisoners that had just come in. And I said, "Well, actually, I'm not in for anything. I'm a yoga teacher." And they were really excited. So then I said, "What happened for you? Like, what are you in for?" Using the prison jargon. And they said, "Oh, well, it got below freezing last night in Columbus, and we don't have a place to stay, and we didn't have food. So then we just commit some small crime, and then the police will pick us up, and then, they drive us here, and then we'll spend the night here. At least we get a warm meal and a bed." I am telling you, I was shocked beyond words. I didn't even know what to say. I mean, I'm already working with a prison population of amazing, sincere spiritual seekers who've asked the deepest questions about life, who've asked the deepest questions about what it means to be free, about not fulfilling your karma. Now I find out that they're actually using the prison system as a place for just warmth, a bed, and a meal. And to do this, they have to commit a crime. So it's going to be some never-ending cycle of negativity. How will they ever get out of this situation? So I started looking into it, and I found out, I talked to some friends of mine that are in the mental health system. I found out that when the governments stopped funding mental health to a certain degree, starting in the 80s, there's nowhere for these people to go, because in the past, a lot of drug addicts, which if you recall, I told you about 40% of the prison population is in for some kind of drug addiction, and then possibly some drug, crime. So those people before fell into the mental health system. Once that mental health system was pretty much either obliterated or the funding stopped, these people, there's nowhere for them to go. You've all heard about the explosion in the prison population. This is one of the biggest reasons, is the prison population had to absorb a lot of these people with mental health issues, which includes drug addiction. So I looked into all of this. I'm just telling you, I was so surprised. So then that leads me now to a whole other way of a whole other system that has been present for thousands of years, the Vedic tradition. In the Vedic tradition, there's two outstanding components. No one ever goes without food. No one ever goes without knowledge. And in India, the very idea that you will always be fed, that you can always gain knowledge, keeps people at a little higher frequency. Even people of a lower consciousness in the Vedic society have a place to go, have a support system, their own, what we would call caste, have a family or things like that. But we can clearly see the gap and how it's completely falling apart in the United States when people are having to commit a crime to get into prison. And then this brings it back home, like I told you in my introductory video, of my own grandfather trying to feed a family of 5 in the Depression without food and committing a crime to get food to feed his family. It's a never-ending cycle that, unless something's done in our country, I don't know how it will help. But there's hope, because there's a whole example in India of a system like this. So first of all, I want to tell you a quote from Macaulay, who made this decision to basically obliterate the Indian education system. It goes, "I have traveled across the length and breadth of India and have not seen one person who is a beggar or a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I don't think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is her spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose we replace her old and ancient education system. They will lose their self-esteem." This is so shocking, because I've been connected with Swamiji and the Vedic system for about 10 years now. What he's basically talking about is the Gurukul system. Gurukul, Gurukul system. This amazing, unique system was how children were always educated in India and continue to be today, but to a much lesser extent, because the Gurukul system basically fell apart from the late 1800s through the 1900s when the British were ruling India. But I've had the opportunity to see these kids. I just have seen some of them walking by now. These Gurukul kids. The Gurukul here in the ashram has about 60 kids, I think. These kids are the most amazing kids I have ever met. They're completely based in regular knowledge, taking regular math, English classes like this. But they're also parallel, side by side, being based in spiritual knowledge, spiritual anchoring by Swamiji. From the very get-go, they practice what we call the 4 powers: integrity, authenticity, responsibility, and then after that, enriching. I have never seen such integrated people in my life, much less these Gurukul kids. So there's a system here, the Gurukul, that's basically like a private school. It's a very high caliber, it's certified. But recently Swamiji made this Gurukul free to all, which is an amazing, amazing thing when we think back of the earliest of the Vedic tradition, where people could have free knowledge and free food. So right here I'm seeing before my very eyes a way to completely uplift a society, rather than a society where we take away the food, we take away the knowledge. It's not free. You have to work so hard for it, so that the only response is to commit a crime and get into prison. So I don't think that these 2 ladies ever ended up in my Nithyananda yoga classes, but fortunately, as I've told you, many women did, and did also find a way to start uplifting themselves out of society, even if they never made it out of the prison. One thing I'll share at this point, which I'll go more into, is the way that this carried on in the prison, ending on a positive note, is that the women were so inspired that at one point I had to leave. The wardens were changed or something like that. But what I found out is the women carried on the work themselves and got permission to teach Nithyananda yoga on death row in this prison, which had never been done before. So with that note, I'd like to end this series, or this particular video, on teaching Nithyananda Yoga in a maximum security prison. I hope you enjoyed the video. And remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to go to www.nithyanandayoga.org to find out the latest programs that are available, including finding out more about the Gurukul. Thank you. Namaste.